The librarian's ghost Elara Vance didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in systems. As the head archivist of the venerable Lyceum Athenaeum, her world was one of quiet order. The soft whisper of climate control, the precise duodecimal logic of the stacks, the immutable truth of ink on vellum. The Lyceum wasn't just a library, it was a memory palace for civilization, and she was its stern, devoted custodian. The first anomaly was a scent. Not the familiar bouquet of old paper, leather, and dust. This was almonds and ozone, bitter, electric. She encountered it one evening near the restricted folio section, home to 17th century grimoires and Newton's alchemical notebooks. The air tasted metallic. She checked the environmental logs. Humidity, temperature, particulate counts, all nominal. The scent was a fact her instruments refused to record. The second was a sound. A low, resonant hum, felt in the teeth more than heard, emanating from the sub-basement where the original, 200-year-old compactus shelving units, massive, iron-wheeled beasts, stood in silent ranks. The security feeds showed nothing. The sound sensors registered a frequency below their designed threshold. Yet, when she stood between the towering shelves, the vibration made her fillings ache. It was the library's forgotten bass note. The third was a dislocation. A researcher requested Galileo's Sidereus Nuncius, first edition. Its catalogue card and digital record placed it at its correct coordinate. Vault A, Bay 7, Shelf 3. But the space was occupied by a lesser 18th century reprint. The priceless volume was simply gone. No breach alarms, no record of checkout. A week later, it reappeared. In the wrong bay. Resting atop a volume of Agrippa's occult philosophy, it bore a single, faint smudge on its calfskin cover, a fingerprint of oxidized silver and something chalky. Elara's systemic mind, trained to trace provenance, began a new kind of bibliography, a forensics of the impossible. She set up passive monitors, pH-sensitive paper, to detect airborne acids, ultra-low frequency microphones, and time-lapse cameras with filters for specific light spectra. Her data revealed a pattern. The anomalies clustered around the new wing of Digital Humanities, a sleek, glass and steel insertion funded by the tech magnate Aries Thorne, which was being built into the Lyceum's historic shell. The construction was a constant, low-grade trauma to the old building. More tellingly, they spiked whenever Thorne's personal curator, a man named Silas, visited the restricted folio section with special access granted by the library's ambitious deputy director, Leo. Silas wasn't researching. He was sampling. With gloves too thin for conservation, a spectrometer wand, and a look of cold hunger. Elara cross-referenced his visits with the archival database. Each time, he called up volumes concerning early metallurgy, geometric cryptography, and Renaissance perpetual motion machines. And each time, within 48 hours, an item from that thematic cluster would exhibit a ghost, a scent, a hum, a temporary misplacement. The conclusion was inescapable, yet insane. Someone was using the construction's vibrations and energy signatures as a cover, and Silas as a scout, to conduct a form of resonant theft. They weren't stealing the books physically. They were scanning them at a molecular or energetic level the library's sensors couldn't comprehend, leaving behind a phantom imprint. A ghost in her system. The smudge on Galileo was residue. Her confrontation with Deputy Director Leo was a masterpiece of bureaucratic deflection. "Elara, my dear," he sighed, adjusting his rimless glasses. The stress of the renovation. Electromagnetic interference from the welders. Old buildings settle. You're seeing patterns in the dust. But she saw the flicker in his eyes. He knew. And he was complicit. Thorne's donation was a Trojan horse. The wing was a factory for a new, unthinkable kind of piracy, stealing not the book, but its essence, its unique material history, perhaps to be reconstructed or sold as transcendental data in some black market of ideas. She couldn't go to the board. Leo would discredit her as a hysterical relic. She needed to catch the ghost in the act and make it visible. She needed to write a new entry in the catalogue of evidence. Her plan was a silent reference interview with the library itself. She identified the next likely target. The Voynich manuscript, the Lyceum's most infamous and baffling holding. Its uncopyable script and bizarre illustrations made it the ultimate prize for a resonance thief. Using her master key, she created a perfect, publicly listed duplicate record for the Voynich in the main catalogue, but physically substituted the real manuscript with a sophisticated facsimile in its climate-controlled case. The real one she secreted in a forgotten coal chute-turned-storage niche, a place not on any modern plan. She then weaponized the library's own ghosts. In the sub-basement, among the humming compactus units, she set up a counter-resonance. Using a bank of antique tuning forks calibrated to the natural frequency of the Lyceum's foundation stone, and connected to the building's original, cast-iron steam pipes, she created a standing wave of disruptive interference. It was a scream in a frequency only the sensitive scanning equipment would hear, a shriek of historical static. She baited the trap. She let slip to Leo's assistant that she'd noticed strange thermoluminescent readings on the Voynich's vellum, suggesting a unique, non-replicable mineral signature in the ink. For a resonance thief, this was the ultimate challenge. 2 nights later, her silent alarms tripped. The pH paper in the restricted folio room turned blue. The subsonic microphone spiked. The time-lapse camera, filtered for ultraviolet, showed a hazy, pulsing aura around the Voynich's case. She descended into the sub-basement, not to the fake Voynich, but to her hidden control point by the old compactus units. Through a fiber optic eye she'd drilled, she saw them. Silas, operating a device that looked like a cross between an MRI coil and an astrolabe, humming with a painful light. Leo stood watch, his face tense. As the device reached its peak resonance, Elara threw the master switch. Her bank of tuning forks engaged, channeling their vibration into the steam pipes. A deep, groaning note filled the sub-basement, a sound of protesting iron and stone. The thief's device flared, then sparked, its delicate harmonics shattered by the raw, architectural dissonance. A feedback loop surged. Every light in the Lyceum flickered. The Athenaeum's ancient burglar alarm, a system of brass bells connected to tripwires, untouched since 1890, clanged into life, a deafening, mechanical cacophony. Security and the night board members, alerted by the power surge and the unignorable bells, found Leo and Silas in a chamber reeking of ozone and panic, surrounded by smoldering, exotic equipment. Elara emerged from the shadows, the real Voynich manuscript cradled in her arms. Theft, she stated, her voice cutting through the din, is not merely the removal of an object. It is the violation of context, of provenance, of silence. They weren't stealing our books. They were trying to steal their souls. The scandal was monumental. Leo was dismissed. Thorn's wing construction was frozen, then investigated. Silas vanished into the night, but his device, seized by authorities, confounded every expert. In the restored quiet, Elara walked her stacks. The scent of almonds was gone. The hum in the sub-basement had settled into its old, familiar sleep. She ran a hand along the leather spine of Newton's notebook. The system was secure. But her faith in its integrity was forever altered. She had preserved the library, not just from thieves of objects, but from thieves of essence. The ghosts, she now understood, weren't in the building. They were in the hearts of the men who thought a memory had a price. And she, the archivist, had just filed their failure under P for piracy and F for folly. The most important stories, she knew, were not just those on the shelves, but the one she had just written in the ledger of their defense.